Regular swimmers at a community pool identify a crack that turns into clusters and eventually a fracture. The book, The Swimmers, the author, Julie Otsuka. And you're listening to Lit Society.
Let's get lit.
Hi, readers. This is Alexis.
Hey, literati. This is Kari.
And you're listening to Lit Society, a podcast about books and drama. Y'all, we are back.
Yes, if you subscribe to our newsletter, you know why we've been missing, but it was a much needed break.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy? Did you do anything you'd like to share?
So besides mourning, no. I am in Portugal now, but that's so I'll be here for
your
3
winter
months.
home.
Yeah, my winter home, I guess. Yeah, I'll be in Portugal for a few months. But that's the only thing different other than the loss that I feel. So
and the grief is exhausting. So thank you for doing this show.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you. Not for doing this, but just in general. And it's good to be back.
Yeah, I feel good about being back. It's been a while since we have connected on the book topic.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, we've been avoiding talking about books. We did like one day, but we were just mostly bashing a few. Because we're still readers. We've still been reading, even though we haven't recorded.
Yeah.
And thank you all for sending us messages, contacting friends of ours and family members and letting us know it is time to drop a new episode.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. The messages were much appreciated. I got a couple through Instagram, and that was very nice to hear you guys were thinking about us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's get on with the show, because we know y'all don't like that little chitty chat stuff. Each week we select a theme to discuss inspired by the book that we're reading. The theme chosen for this week is in line with the Olympics. It's a brief history of swimming in the Olympics.
Wow, so exciting. Have you been watching the Olympics?
Unfortunately, no.
People have been crying, girl.
On the Olympics?
Yeah, thugs and gangsters. They have been crying, rooting for the swimmers, for the gymnasts are really, filling the media cycle.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah.
So what you got?
I did see that Brazil got its first gymnast bronze, which is a big deal for their country. So I thought that
and
was
the U.S.
cool.
men's got bronze, which go y'all.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is cool, because that doesn't happen, right? They don't usually be placed for this stuff.
We don't medal it for the men.
For the men.
The men's don't medal.
The men's don't be meddling. Well, anyway, let us get on with our topic.
Let's do it.
Swimming as a practice is said to date back to 2500 BC.
They weren't swimming before then?
Girl, nah.
What? Okay. As a practice or as a sport?
As a practice. Practice. Ancient Egyptians swam for pleasure in the Nile, and the Greeks and Romans used swimming as a means to train prospective soldiers. It started as a sport in 1835, when the world's first swimming organization was formed, and the first championship was in Australia in 1846. Swimming was included in the very first Olympic Games, but only for men. Kari, when was the first Olympic Games? Do you know?
Of course I know. That was in the 13th century. 1250, was it?
That's wild. It was in 1896.
When they was in the nude? That's not true. That's not true, Alex. Go ahead, because I'm about to debunk this live.
You do it. You do it. Okay. What? I got another question before you start debunking stuff. What other three disciplines were included at the first Olympic Games? Do you know that answer?
Well, not the rifle one. Track and field, swimming.
Other three.
Shot put. Oh, what?
Other three. So swimming is already on the board.
Oh, I'm sorry. Track and field. Shot put. No. Wrestling. No.
Well,
I don't know, Alexis. I don't know.
You'll be interested to know that it was artistic gymnastics and fencing. Oh. Yeah.
Fencing. Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Now, when were women's swim events first introduced to the games? Do you know that?
1906.
Answer? So close. 1912 at the Olympic Games in Stockholm. There were only two events for them at the time. It was the 100-meter freestyle and the 4x100-meter freestyle relay. Before the London Games of 1908, the swimming events took place where, Kari? In open water, like the Mediterranean and the Seine River.
But not the Seine. Yeah. Oh, no. And it was real dirty then. They said that the swimmers, because they had to
delay.
The triathlon specifically was in the Seine, and they said it was brown and tasted strange. We won't see them no more. Hope y'all went for gold.
That's a slow.
Don't get dark. Go ahead.
A gold medalist swimmer who won the 1200 meter in the Mediterranean once said, "My will to live completely overcame my desire to win."
Yeah, I believe it. They felt stranded out there.
I mean, think about the temperatures of the water, the waves they had to deal with.
Wow.
Listen, so after World War II, everything improved for swimmers. Technology, facilities, training techniques. They were no longer wearing bodysuits, which slowed them down. The suits were being made from lycra, so they were much faster. Pools were improved. They went from outdoor to indoor. Standards were introduced, and now there were Olympic-sized swimming pools, which marked lanes, and there was guidelines for the depths of the pool. With all these improvements, now people could show out and become top-notch swimmers. You hear me? So in 1972, the Munich Olympics, USA's Mark Spitz won 7 gold medals. And at the Seoul Olympics in 1988, Kristen Otto became the first woman to win 6 gold medals. So all these improvements enhanced their ability and, of course, training techniques. All of that made them better swimmers. So there are 4 strokes that are standardly used at the Olympics. Do you know what those are, Kari?
Of course. Butterfly.
Come on.
Backstroke.
Come on.
And the like.
That's good. The freestyle and the breaststroke are the other ones that are included. The flip turn was developed in the 1950s, and then swimming goggles were allowed to be used starting in 1976. Listen, in 1924, the fastest 100-meter freestyle was 59 seconds. By 2020, the fastest speed for the same freestyle, same meter race, was 47 seconds for men. And for women, that went from 1.12 seconds to 51.96 seconds. So speed is increasing. People are getting stronger. But then also
hormones. I don't know.
I don't do that. That could be they're getting stronger, okay?
Steroids.
We're stronger. Listen. Who, Kari? Now this one you should know. The most decorated Olympian is a swimmer. Do you know who that swimmer is?
That's Michael Phelps.
Absolutely. Now, that may have changed recently, like in this 2024 Olympics. I'm not sure. As of the time of my writing this, my data is not updated, okay? But he won.
Not at the time of my writing this, my data is not updated. You are not the New York Times.
Whatever.
Go ahead, girl. This is edifying.
Michael Phelps won 28 medals over 4 Olympic Games. That's a lot.
Well, that's because he has a birth defect, right?
What
He's
is
like
it?
half dolphin. Like his great-great-granddaddy was a dolphin. I'll look it up.
Yeah,
I'll fact check.
I'll wait for that. In 2024, the swimming events distance-wise are 50 meters to 150 to 1,500 meter races. There are 35 events, 17 for men, 17 for women. And starting with the 2020 Olympics, they added a mixed relay event, which allows men and women to swim together. And there you have it, a brief history of swimming in the Olympics. Any questions, Kari?
No, but I do have something to add.
Okay, let's hear it.
So it's interesting that the first Olympics were held in the summer of 776 BC. Those aren't the real Olympics that Alexis is talking about. This is like what inspired what we know today as the Olympics.
Okay.
And it was held in Greece to honor the god Zeus. And it was held in the location where the gods were worshipped. And then, as Alexis told us, I guess the modern day games were first held in 1896.
Well,
it's very interesting.
Okay, well, I didn't specify modern day, so sure, you can count your data.
Thanks for throwing me a bone. And Phelps has a rare hereditary disorder, or it was rumored that he had Marfan syndrome, where you have long arms and legs, a tall and slender body, and a curved spine. But he says he don't got that. He just good.
People trying to steal his glory. That's all. You can't do that. You can't
it's
do that.
It's always gonna be haters.
I'm just good. Okay, I'm just good. Okay. Yeah. Well, why don't we take a quick break and come back for our content and context? Excuse me, and something about our author.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, Kari, what can you share with us about the author and any context for the book?
All right. Well, Julie Otsuka is the author of today's book, The Swimmers. The Swimmers is her third published novel, preceded by When the Emperor Was Divine, published in 2002, and The Buddha in the Attic, published in 2011. This book is based in part on her mother and her battle with FTD, which is a form of dementia, not Alzheimer's, but dementia. Mm-hmm. In 2023, this book won the Andrew Carnegie Medal for Excellence in Fiction. Julie herself was born in May 15, 1962 in Palo Alto, California. Her father worked as an aerospace engineer and her mother worked as a lab technician before giving birth to Julie. Her parents are both Japanese descendants, and when she was 9, her family moved to Palos Verdes, California. She's 2 brothers, very much reflected in the story that we're reading today, which is fiction, but again, inspired by her real life. Mm-hmm. After graduating from high school, Otsuka became a Yalie. She went there for her undergrad and graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1984. And then she went on to Columbia University for a Master of Fine Arts. Her debut novel, When the Emperor Was Divine, deals with Japanese American internment during World War II. Mm-hmm. And it's just touched on lightly in this book. She doesn't linger on it, but for more details and her perspective and her family's perspective, you can read that book. Her historical fiction usually deals with Japanese American topics, issues calling attention to their plight during World War II. And that's what I have on Julie Otsuka.
Oh, we love
She lives
that.
in New York now, like all cool authors.
I love that.
So, Alexis, who do you think would enjoy reading this book?
So the first thing that came to my mind when reading this book was still Alice. I couldn't help it, by Lisa Genova.
Sure, of course.
Mm-hmm. And then I thought about books of poetry. So I can't think of anything specific, but definitely poetry. If you like poetry, I think you like this book.
And for an interview with the author of Still Alice, you can find that on our YouTube channel or, of course, in our podcast feed. Alexis sat down with Lisa Genova and was able to talk about the inspiration for that book and really who Alice was. Was she still Alice in that book? We also reviewed that book in another episode.
So, Kari, why did you choose this book?
I chose it because it's awarded and it's short. And we're coming back off of a long break. I didn't want us to have to dive into something too weighty, but surprise, surprise, this book might be short, but it packs a punch. It's very rich in context.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Are you ready? Are you ready to take our first spoiler-filled deep dive into The Swimmers by Julie Otsuka?
I am ready. And this is going to be a bit of a discussion. So I hope you remember what you read. All right. So here we go. Literati, let me tell you straight off the rip. This is a book about routine, comforting routine and unmindful routine. It's about what happens to us when we lose our routines. It's about who we are within the groups we form and who we are as individuals. It may also be about disruption and death, but as the reader, you can decide that. It is divided into 5 parts. Part 1, the underground pool. The point of view changes slightly throughout this book, but for part 1, we're in the first person plural. And so the we being spoken of are the swimmers for the most part. Sometimes it's also like the decorations or ropes around the pool. Like they'd be like, "Ooh, I'm tired." But it's not too much of that. It's more about the perspective of the swimmers who visit this underground pool routinely. So we dive into the scene with the pool and we learn the identity of the swimmers right away. The narration style feels like the rhythmic reach and pull of a swimmer's strokes to me. What did you think of her writing style, Alexis?
Well, I appreciated it. I like the way she expressed her introduction of the swimmers. So I did enjoy it.
Yeah, her prose are very economical, very short, and they all build on each other, explain each other. Let me give you an example. Let's take the introduction of the book, and I'll read that now. In the beginning, she says, "The pool is located deep underground in a large cavernous chamber, many feet beneath the streets of our town. Some of us come here because we are injured and need to heal. We suffer from bad backs, fallen arches, shattered dreams, broken hearts, anxiety, melancholia, the usual above ground afflictions." I love
that. Yeah, I like that.
Because you go into from something physical, like a bad back, to a broken heart. And there's a lot of that mixing of emotional effects that people deal with from life and also physical damage and trauma just from living. She continues, "Others of us are employed at the college nearby and prefer to take our lunch breaks down below in the waters, far away from the harsh glares of our colleagues and screens. Some of us come here to escape, if only for an hour, our disappointing marriages on land. Many of us live in the neighborhood and simply love to swim. One of us, Alice, a retired lab technician now in the early stages of dementia, comes here because she always has. And even though she may not remember the combination to her locker or where she put her towel, the moment she slips into the water, she knows what to do. Her stroke is long and fluid. Her kick is strong. Her mind clear. Up there, she says, I'm just another little old lady, but down here at the pool, I'm myself." And I love that. Yeah. So what's going on above ground? It's whatever's going on up there, whether you are in a loveless marriage, you're stressed at your job, your friends don't understand you, whatever's going on. When you come down to the pool, you're safe, everything's uneventful, and there's routine, comforting routine. Above ground, there might be losers, cheaters, overstressed and overworked, but in the pool, there's peace, order, and kindness. If someone wants to pass you in the pool, what do they do, Alexis? Do you remember?
Tap your foot.
Yeah, politely tap your foot. Like, hey, I'm going to pass you. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Just a foot tap. If you have the habit of walking around naked in the locker room, people politely ignore you. If you stole something minor, it's forgiven. When I first read this book, I actually didn't know it was Alice's story. I felt like, oh, this is a book about swimmers. I see why it's short. I mean, it's well written, but it's short.
And actually, when I listened to an interview with her, she said it wasn't supposed to be that. That's not her intention. That first part is supposed to be about swimmers. And only through the second part of that will you identify Alice.
Okay. Wow. So one of the swimmers diagnoses her father's illness while swimming. It just comes to her as her mind and body are able to relax. Another solves crossword puzzles in his head. One is even a retired Olympian. Don't talk to her. Let her just swim. Okay. Don't ask for her autograph. They check on each other when one is missing. If you go missing for an extended period, you can do that once. And everyone will welcome you back right away. But you do that twice, don't you ever come back.
Don't you
because you've broken the routine. Next, we meet the lifeguard. And there's a line here that feels a little bit like it's from a child's book. I want to read it. Julie says, timely or tardy, young or old, male or female, the lifeguard never lasts for long. Last month, the lifeguard was an out of work IT guy from the next town over. The month before that, the local football coach's son. Land people, we say. This month, the lifeguard is a dark-haired man of indeterminate age who always has a radio pressed close to his ear. It is impossible to know what, if anything, he is thinking. To our friendly hellos, he responds with a barely perceptible nod. Rumors about the new lifeguard are rife. He is 27. He is 58. He is weeping. He is sleeping. He doesn't really care. So once per year.
This part made me want. I was like, where they go? Where there's a lifeguard? I ain't never been lap pool where there is a lifeguard. It doesn't happen.
No, of course not. Because the pool's not deep enough. Well, this one is. Some lap pools have lifeguards, I guess. And side note, Alexis is very bougie, so she goes to like the upper crust gyms where everything is like the pool's made of solid gold. But if it's a municipal service, what'd you say?
Exaggerations.
No. And the water's made of liquid silver. But if it's a municipal service, I could see them having a lifeguard to avoid litigation. That's the only thing I can think.
Okay.
But anyway, once a year, the pool is closed for maintenance, and Alice forgets and knocks on the door and is like, hello. And no one's there. We can't stay down here forever, though. You wake up one day and you can't even remember your own name. It's Alice. So anyway, part 2, the crack. Can you tell us a little about the crack, Alexis?
The crack started in lane 4. And it was there, and it really threw people off. So they're like, what is that crack? They started swimming around the crack to avoid it. And there were lots of rumors about what this crack is. I just like, where is it? Why is it here? So yeah, that's what I can say.
This just happened at the pool in my gym, and I was devastated. No, I don't know how to swim. So anyway, but this did just happen. Well, just a little bit of, I'm just going to say this. So when the crack formed at the pool at our gym, it was actually a big deal because they said it could have flooded the entire gym. So they caught it just in time. Wow. It's on the 2nd floor, and the water could have flooded the gym, the 2nd and 1st floor. And it's a huge space. So I thought that was interesting. So rightly so, everyone's worried about the crack. They start prescribing emotions to the crack. Is the crack doing this to us? Why is the crack doing it? Is this a government plot to end society? What do you think the crack represents in the book, Alexis? I've got some thoughts about that.
Change coming.
Yeah. Or maybe even like the crack in our mind, the first signs of something not being right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Change. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
It's change. Something's afoot. And we need to be on the lookout for it.
Yeah. So this is definitely a break in the routine, as Alexis said. And the crack unsettles some who right away decide to give up swimming.
Like, we out of here.
Yeah, a crack. I don't know what this is about or what the crack's motives are, but I'm never swimming again. There's another quote. It says, "It's the first thing I think about when I wake up in the morning," someone says, "and the last thing I think about at night before I go to sleep." Someone else says, "Actually, I'm obsessed. What I want to know," someone says, "is what, if anything, will emerge from its depths." Soon, multiple cracks develop, and for the sake of the swimmer's safety, it's decided to close the pool indefinitely. They, the swimmers, have all found their end. They're very shook.
Shook it.
One man says, "Do you have the feeling that you've wasted your entire life?" Someone else says, "I thought we'd be down here forever." Someone answers, "Maybe we have been." So this is all metaphorical. They're reaching the end of their quote unquote lives, and they must find new lives above ground. But not everyone can do that because for Alice, she's been swimming here for 35 years, and she's at a point in her life where she'll never be the same mentally. So she really needed this routine. This can't be happening to us, someone says. This only happens to other people. And those are words that can also be applied to illnesses such as dementia. Yeah. On the last day, everyone gets out the pool. The lifeguard lets them know this is it. But Alice keeps swimming and everyone's like, "Alice, get out of the pool." And the lifeguard says, one more lap. So he lets Alice stay in the pool a little longer.
Yeah.
Part 3, Diem Perditi. Do you remember what that means?
I have lost a day.
You got it. So everything she does and what she remembers is discussed in this section. Everything she used to be, all the thoughts that come to Alice in the middle of the night and the beginning of the day. She remembers the child that she had before you. Again, this point of view, is third person now. And we have a narrator that is neither the protagonist or her mother, or not the protagonist, We have a narrator that is not the character that represents Julie or Julie's mother. It's just narrator.
It's just narration.
Talking to Julie and to us if anything like this happens to us.
I took this as welcome instructions.
So that's how I felt about Bella Vista, but
that's right. You mean I'm a little bit ahead. Sorry.
No, I could see that too. I could see that, like, welcome to this part in your family member's journey. So the child that died before she had you, she remembers her, and she remembers fearing that child might be in a jar. There's a story that we read later in the book where the mother gave birth to a child, and because the child suffered from an illness so strange, where I think her heart and arteries were outside of her body, that the doctors asked if they could study the body for science. And the mother was overcome by grief, overwhelmed, and allowed it. And she just, to this day, is like, we should have buried that baby. So she remembers how her own mother died at, like, how old was she? 101?
Yep.
And the character depicting a fictionalized version of Julie's mom is devastated. Like, how could my mom do this to me? A little note that I thought was very interesting. A lot of this book, Julie pours herself into, of course, as I keep saying. But Julie is an author. She doesn't have children in this story. If I'm to believe this is her. She suffered a divorce, but is a very solo person. She's traveled all over the world for friends' weddings, literary events, but the places her mother's wanted to go to, she's never taken her. Her mother, however, when her mother, so Julie's grandmother, was very advanced in years, her mother took her mother, Julie's mom took Julie's grandma all around the world. Yeah. She liked spending time with her mom. And she even drove in another country, which I don't even think she was driving in America.
Right, she
but
wasn't.
She wanted to show her mom the sights. So when her mom died at 101, she was like, how could my mama do that?
She was devastated.
Julie's mom was devastated. She didn't get out of a chair barely for a year. The dad was worried, but she was also exhibiting signs of early onset dementia that people notice. But because she was doing other things and remember other things, like how much to tip the waitress or events she had planned, because she was remembering those things, her daughter put it off as, okay, this is just an episode you're having. It's no problem. It's not a bigger problem lurking under the surface. Right. But there was. Anyway, back to Julie's mom, or Alice, I should say. She remembers she remembers Julie's, or the character representing Julie. She remembers the first husband and how Julie looked at him more than he looked at her. She didn't like that man anyway. And it was like a rushed marriage. They eloped. Yeah. He was like a monk. So, her mother never liked him and that marriage ended. Her mother also remembers meeting Julie's dad, how her husband, Julie's dad, was engaged to another woman before marrying her mom, and how her mom was in love with a man named Mark. Now, real quick. So Alice, the old lady who represents Julie's mom, Alice was in love with this man in her youth named Mark. They were supposed to get married, young love. He wrote her all the time. And then all of a sudden the letters stopped and she assumed he died. She thought she was losing her mind. She was worried, right? She read in the paper that what, Alexis?
He got married to somebody else.
He got married.
That's so
Then
wild.
He had the nerve to call her a few months later, like, I made a mistake. And she said, it's too late.
Oh, my goodness.
And as soon as she realized Mark got married, she said, what about this other man I won't meet? And that's Julie's daddy. And I thought this was really cute because she really loves Julie's dad. She thinks about him all the time. When he leaves the room, Alice goes, he's in love with me more than I'm in love with him. And then a few moments later, she goes, when's your dad coming back in the room? It's so cute.
Yeah, that part was.
There was also a time when the FBI came for Julie's dad in the middle of the night. And then her mom didn't see him again until after the war. So he was in a camp. Her husband, again, was engaged to another woman. That woman was white. And this, again, is Julie's dad. Alice's husband was, before they met, engaged to a white woman. And her family didn't want her to marry someone that looked like the gardener. So that didn't last. And then he met Alice and then they fell in love and got married. So Alice remembers all of these details, but she doesn't remember that she talked to her brother this morning. She doesn't remember that what day it is. She always says it's Sunday. And at least that's true 6 days out of the week. Things like that. She's no longer remembering. She's repeating herself. Things like that. She hands a note to the man in front of her at the supermarket asking if he's single. She doesn't remember doing that. She doesn't remember then leaning over to you and going, he's not bad looking. Wink, wink. Or telling you, so-and-so got pregnant at 49. There's still hope. She don't remember none of that. So part 4.
Well, I love this line now. It says she remembers, she is forgetting.
Yeah, I love that line too. Thank you for bringing that out, because if you ever spoken with someone with early onset dementia, they know their mind is going, and it is the most heartbreaking thing. And they might mention it. So in Alice's case, she knows that something isn't right. And she hopes no one else notices. But she thinks to herself, yeah, they definitely notice. So part 4, Bella Vista. Can you explain Bella Vista to us in this section?
Okay, so Bella Vista is really a welcome letter with instructions on how to behave when you get to the long-term memory residence. That's it. That's what it is. And then we conclude with, please sign here.
Yeah. So now Alice has been put into a care facility named Bella Vista. This part of the book is in second person, and it's letting you know that you've come to the end of the journey. What journey? The journey you started when you were born. Everyone who works here is very nice. They are paid to be, and they are paid to love you, except the women of color that change your bed and stuff and don't really talk to you the next day. They are paid the lowest wage possible to love you. You used to live in a 3-bedroom home with your husband, but now you share one room with a roommate, and you can apply for a new roommate once or twice. But after then, you will be put on the list of people who are not, what is it, socializing well or
maladaptive.
Yeah, maladaptive. So don't be the problem, be the solution. Now, if you are worried about how to pay for it, don't worry about that, because your whole retirement and maybe even a second mortgage is going to you living here. If for some reason your husband answers an online ad and wastes all your money on a scam, they will still take care of you. They're not heartless, but they do have their favorites. Usually women, good-looking old women that don't talk a lot, whose families don't come see them often, who are malleable and meek. They like them. Okay? Now, you will sometimes think, I want to go on a ride with my husband, and I've gotten used to Bella Vista, so I'd even come back here. So you put on all your clothes, you grab your bag, and you look over your shoulder and go, see y'all in an hour. People will stop you at the door because you ain't going nowhere. You won't experience weather. Forget about your raincoat. You'll never need it. You won't experience darkness. You will just keep an ambient of light at different levels. You will sit in a chair, look at traffic, and that will become your life. Or you might fall in love with a tree. Maybe you were never a tree person. Maybe you always were. You're going to love trees now. And that's only if you get a room with a nature view. It's intense, okay?
But you can request one for a fee.
Yeah.
You might get one.
You can request a room that has a tree outside of it. Also, there is a season every year where people will just be screaming at you for weeks, singing loudly, calling it Christmas. But listen, you gonna hate it. Everyone hates it. But the quiet of Bella Vista will be that much sweeter when they leave. So just deal with it. There will be parades of people you don't know who come see you, who say they used to swim with you, whatever that means. This is not a comedy, y'all. Alexis is dark.
Okay.
So, yeah, you'll never forget that the girl who comes sees you is your favorite child, your daughter. Now I'm thinking like, Julie, how your brothers feel about this line? But maybe it's just true. You will think that they've all abandoned you, that no one misses you. Then we kind of get into part 5, Euro and Euro. What is that part about, Alexis?
I don't, is it about the daughter? It's about the daughter relationship, the relationship with the daughter. Yes, that's what it's about.
Yeah, so just after our intro into Bella Vista, we get into how your family misses you more than you can even realize. Your husband is learning things about himself. The fact that he has an accent, he didn't know that. Every time he answers the phone now, people are like, what? Huh? Because Alice always answered the phone. Or how he asked the maid never to make up your bed again. And he always looks in there just to see if you're home, even though he knows he had to put you in Bella Vista. Yeah, it's a lot. But then we start talking to the character that represents Julie, and we let her know what, Alexis?
I'm not sure where you're going with this point.
So I'm sorry, the narrator now is talking to that character and letting her know everything she will miss and discover about herself after her mother's death. So there comes a time in your life at Bella Vista where you say your last word. No one knows it's going to be your last word. You don't know it. No one else knows it. It might even just be a sigh or and that's the last thing you'll ever say. After your death, it will be a hard adjustment for everyone who loves you and for those even at Bella Vista who will scrub your name from the system and move on to another client. But they won't forget you either. And this is when Julie is realizing who she is and who her family is without Alice. And that's the book. Alexis, you want to take a break?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. And we're back. Alexis, what did you think of The Swimmers by Julie Otsuka? And would you recommend this book?
Okay, so let me start by saying after chapter 1, I was like, I need to be swimming. I miss swimming so much.
Oh, yeah.
And reading this book, there were times when I was really sad. But then the Bella Vista chapter really made me laugh. Sorry.
It's a bit of irony there, ironic humor.
And so there was that. And then those Still Alice readers and those poetry readers, I think you find that book, that chapter on Buena Vista is like poetry to me. The one on, what is it? Perditi.
Mm-hmm.
That one.
DM Perditi.
Is like poetry to me. So I would recommend this book. I really did enjoy reading it. I was initially confused. Where are we going with this? I thought we were talking about swimming. That did happen. And then I remember, I understood, and even the crack chapter, the chapter about the crack was helped me draw the connection, because that crack was a break. The crack led to their separation, led to the fracture. And that fracture for me was the loss of Alice at the end of the book. So I really enjoyed writing this book. It talks about that loss of routine that I feel like pushed Alice further into her fight with the FTD that she eventually lost. So I did enjoy the book. It was very thoughtful, very thoughtful.
Thank you.
How about you, Kari? Would you recommend this book, and what are your final thoughts on it?
Well, I agree with all of your sentiments. It's just so beautifully written, and every section of the book, every part contributes in a healthy way to the whole. So it all makes sense at the end, which is kind of like life. So it's a very poetic in both a literal sense in the way the prose are arranged, but also in the way that the book is just constructed. It's very poetic. And I was recently talking to a neighbor, and they were saying how times are better than ever. And sometimes, what did they say about death? Death is beautiful because you live a life and you love life. And then when you're no longer of use to yourself or anyone else, this peace comes over you and you die. And this was an older man, but an affluent man, and or a man from an affluent family. And I was telling him, well, everyone doesn't die like that. Why do we even have, what? So, but that was his thoughts about death. He's very optimistic about the nature of death and how it's just all part of the story of life and whatever, some other things that I don't personally believe. But everyone doesn't die like that. Most people would want to live if they don't have a disease holding them back or anything else that inhibits them from living the best life they possibly can. No one just wants to die. And I thought this was a great example of this, without being too dark, about the value of life and the value people have on others, even the groups that we form at work or in our hobbies. Alice says she doesn't have a hobby. Swimming is Alice's hobby. Okay, it is. And it is a healthy hobby that contributes to the sharpness of her mind and the health of her body. So when she loses that, that's a real loss that affects not just her, but those within that hobby, the swimmers, and her family, everyone that has a connection to her. And so I think that's a beautiful way to illustrate the importance that we have in each other's lives. Even if I don't spend all day with you or wouldn't call you a friend, maybe you're a workmate or a colleague, you are still important to me.
And part of your life routine of going in.
And part of my routine and part of who I am.
Part of who you are, yeah. That section about the crack, for me, I really started to hear Alice's decline, even though the book was not about her. I could hear the decline, because now we're hearing that she's showing up when the pool is closed. And then the next thing you know, she's signing papers at a long-time memory resident, being given these welcome instructions. So that routine that's in the chapter called The Swimmers is just such a such a detailed piece of our lives, because we do, even when we don't think we live in routine, we live in routine.
We do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to, when I was younger, I was like, I don't want to live here or do this because I hate routine. And what I hate is like monotony and boring predictability. But that's not what routine is.
Not.
Routine is just a foundation on which you establish your life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I love your point about the crack, because this is also where everyone's like, or some people are like, Alice, did you see the crack? And she's like, what crack? There is no crack. So it's like a denial there. What dementia? There is no dementia. I'm fine.
Yeah.
So 5 stars, kudos.
Yeah. So for me, routine, I'm like you. I was like, I don't want to live a life of routine. But in my older age, I am realizing more than ever that I need a routine in order to function. I need some semblance of a routine. And it'll vary, but I do need that routine. It's important to have.
It's just reasonable.
One of the things about this book is that when I read it, and I only listened to it, but when I listened to it, that switch initially seems so abrupt from the chapters about the swimmers and the chapter about the crack. It just seems so abrupt. But when I saw that's how abrupt it can be when your routine is affected.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man,
devastating is what it is.
Absolutely. So again, really great book.
So, well, I recommend it.
Okay.
I enjoyed it.
All right.
Would I read it again? Yes. This is actually an odd beach read to me. It's usually I say a beach read is a light book. You don't have to think much about it, and you can pick up anywhere in the book after you put it down and hop right back in. It's fine. But this is a heavier book. It's the context is richer. It's more to think about. But that can be a great way to meditate on the beach, thinking about life and how we interact with each other. And it's so short. Yeah. This is such a short book, so I highly recommend it.
So, Kari, what are we reading next week?
All Her Little Secrets by Wanda Morris.
Yep, that's it. Thank you for listening to Lit Society. We look forward to meeting up with you next week, Thursday. Lit Society is brought to you by Alexis Honoria, that's me, and Kari Herrera. Support the cause by leaving a 5-star review for our show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also leave a comment there about why you absolutely love us. We love you too.
We love you.
Enjoyed what you just heard, tell a friend about Lit Society. Visit LitSocietyPod.com for show notes, this month's book list, and to sign up for our amazing email newsletter. And until next time, read something.
Read something.